All right. Hey, everybody. Coach Stacy Lynn here. So, today I want to share with you a personal struggle that I have. And I thought, been thinking a lot about this. I've been thinking, should I share my struggle? Sure, why not? That's what everybody does on YouTube, right? Everybody shares their journey. And, one thing as a coach, um, I have had a lot of trauma to overcome in my life. And I have overcome like probably 90% of it. But a couple of years ago, I discovered that I was actually having migraines and I didn't know they were migraines. I've actually talked about that a little bit on this channel before. Um, but anyway, it was probably, I'm going to try not to make this too long, but it is going to be a few minutes. So get some water. Join me, people. A couple of years ago, I was driving around where I live and I got really, really overwhelmed. So much so that I was only about a mile from my house and I couldn't drive home. I was too overwhelmed. And that had never happened to me before. Even though I had noticed, especially in my time living here in Tennessee, that driving had become more difficult for me because, and I didn't know it at the time, but it turns out it's because of my eyes and because of light. I'm royally light sensitive, which is what gives me migraines. And so, after that incident, I ended up doing a lot of research online, and I discovered some Facebook groups that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I feel dizzy when I drive. I get anxious when I drive. I'm overwhelmed when I drive. And not because I hate driving. I love driving. I would drive for hours. I would just drive forever just for fun when I lived in California. But moving to Tennessee, um, especially later, it changed because the difference in the color of the sky is huge. It's very white here all the time. And in California, you have a blue sky most of the time. So that really began to impact. Um, I began to get understanding of why I had this issue. And I've often struggled with anxiety a lot of the time. And again, a lot of that's tied to my eyes, which I didn't know. So, what's happened in the last couple of years as I have learned to listen to the signals in my body, and I've learned that my nervous system is like, ooh, it's kind of like if you, many years ago, and some of you may or may not know this, but many years ago, Snickers had a candy bar. I think they called it Snickers Charge. And what they did was they put a lot of caffeine in these bars. And my husband got some, and I remember, I'll never forget this because it was Halloween time. And anyway, he left some of these behind. He brought them to a Halloween party from a church, at a church. And anyway, when he was gone, I ended up eating like two of them or something. And next thing you know, I am bouncing off the walls because the Snickers bar had tons of caffeine in it. Didn't know. They ended up taking them off the market for that reason. Anyway, long story short, when you're jittery, it's like, So light sensitivity for me creates that. I don't have to drink any coffee. I don't have to be filled with chocolate or anything with caffeine. Light coming into my pupils creates that anxiety in my body. And if you look at my pupils, they're actually a little bit bigger than most people's pupils are. Um, and you can do this. Actually, I did this with some friends, took a picture of myself with them, and then I looked at my pupil size compared to theirs, and mine was like twice as big. So, what happens with that is you get more light in your eyes. That impacts your brain, puts your body on high alert, and next thing you know, you're anxious. Now, this wasn't diagnosed in me until about 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, I went on a journey, and my journey was, how do I reduce this? To make a long story short, about a year ago, I discovered Avolux lenses, royally expensive, like $400 just for these lenses, and they filter out things, but I can't drive with them. So that's a bummer. You can't drive with these, even though some people do. You shouldn't, because what it does is it creates darkness and blindness, so you can't see. So I end up driving instead with some polarized glasses that go over, but even then, those aren't uh, as helpful. They're helpful, but they're not helpful. It's better than nothing, in other words. So, anyway, so I work at home. I play at home for the most part. I live at home. I don't drive as much as I used to. And when I do drive, it's to go run errands or play pickleball or something like that. And so my driving has gotten less over the years, but I have also felt a loss of some independence, which also happens as you get older. Some of you are way older than me, and you already know that. You know that as you get older, a lot of people don't like to drive at night, just as an example. And people just since COVID, I think a lot of people have been home. I actually have a neighbor who never leaves her house. And I go, "Are you alive? Because you never leave your house." She's worse than me, actually. But anyway, so I struggle with this. And when I don't drive for a lot, then my anxiety gets higher because I'm not doing it. So, I've decided that in order for me to get used to driving in light again, I have to be very intentional. I have to coach myself. Coach yourself. Like how on Parks and Recreation they used to say, treat yourself. Well, I am actually coaching myself, and I want to share with you my journey because it is stressful for me to do it. Right now, I have a little bit of a migraine because I just got home a little while ago from doing almost a 20-minute drive, which was huge for me. I hadn't driven, and so this is what I am tracking. So I made myself a little journal where I am tracking my progress. And this is something that you can do. So I want to coach you. If you have an issue similar, make yourself a little journal. The first thing I did was went to a AI site and I said, please give me a journal to track light sensitivity when I drive. Give me a journal prompts, whatever. So this is what it came up with, and I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read it. So, okay, so it came up with date and time. Okay, so I did this. Um, I actually also have an Allstate app, and so it tracks my drives in Allstate. Um, so I was gone for about 17 minutes. Um, and then it says route and distance. So I ended up going where I play pickleball. I did that, and then I drove around my neighborhood. Um, I'm doing this in part also to keep my battery working because I just got a brand new battery, so I don't want it to die on me. So that's part of my anxiety too, is that my old battery kept dying because I wasn't driving enough. So, so I drove maybe 3 miles, which may not seem like a long distance to you, but to me, it was very long. Then it said anxiety level. So my anxiety level prior to going was about a 7, because it's very white out. And so light sensitivity, so it gave me anxiety level, which is 7, and then light sensitivity. So here's what I noticed though. So my anxiety level was about a 7, and I noticed going to pickleball, it was pretty high. When I got to pickleball, I was like, huh, okay. When I turned around, by the time I was halfway home, I noticed it decreasing. I noticed my body started to calm down. So I was like, okay, that's good. That's what you want. You want to be able to get to feel calm in the car. So I started to feel calmer. And then the thing is light sensitivity. My light sensitivity This is a Likert scale, by the way. So 1 to 10. So my light sensitivity was about a 7. And then it gave me light triggers. So what triggered me today was the very, very white sky because uh, it's overcast. It's very foggy this morning. By the way, this also happens to be the day after daylight saving time. So this is the morning that I'm up earlier than I normally would have been because the time, changed 2 days ago. But it's really the first day. Everybody's like, "Oh no, I gotta get up. This is horrible." Blah blah. So, so some of it was time of day. The sky was very white, and some other triggers that I had were I was also feeling a little dizzy, and I was feeling some sinus pressure, especially here on my temples, and a little bit of tightness in my neck, which are all because of light and weather related. And this is the thing. Weather is a massive trigger for people who deal with light sensitivity and migraines. And here's the thing, you can't control the weather. Ah. Although some people do believe the government is trying to control the weather, and they probably are. But that's another episode for another day. But you can't control the weather. I cannot control the weather. So I've discovered some apps. In fact, there's a really good app. It's called Weather X. It's Weather X right here. See, Weather X. And what this does is it shows you the pressure and then it gives you an idea. Like tomorrow, it's going to go down 0.09. I don't know if you can see that. The barometric pressure actually impacts you, how dizzy you feel, and all that. So I already knew going into this that the pressure today was pretty high for me. So weather related. So that's actually a trigger, light trigger and all that. But okay, so the weather pressure, I can use earplugs for, and that helps to reduce dizziness. I actually have found that earplugs help a lot with not only light sensitivity because the auditory thing in your ears impact your ocular nerves. I discovered this, which is why I now play pickleball with earplugs because it reduces the noise. So people who are um, highly sensitive people in this way could probably benefit from that. I discovered this. This is why I do really good at home working in an environment that's quiet because I can control the stimuli coming in. But if I go someplace else, I can't do that. So I have to use different things. So my other triggers were I felt a little dizzy, I had a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pain in my neck. So the next thing this said is what techniques did you use to help you? So the techniques that I used were the first thing I did before I drove today was I put on my prescription glasses that I need to drive. I don't wear them all the time. Those are magnification glasses, right? They make you see better. So your brain has to get used to that. And I have a astigmatism, so my eye again has to get used to the sphere change, all that stuff. So I went outdoors, I walked for a little bit with those on, with my polarized sunglasses on, in order to get my vision used to them because it's annoying. Most of the time I spend with reading glasses on because I work here on my computer. So I had to get used to wearing those glasses because it shifts how I see. And that can also make me feel dizzy, which is irritating. But I did it. I thought, you know what? I'm going to go for a little walk. So I walked up and down my street for a little bit. That's good for everything. But I did it until I could see clearly. I didn't feel dizzy. And then I got in my car after that. But the other technique I used was tapping. I used tapping. Now, tapping is a great technique. I'm not going to get into it here, but there's some really good techniques you can use. And one of the things that I do is I put my hand on my chest here, like this, and then I breathe. And I have to do that even in my car when I'm driving in order to help calm my nervous system. So a lot of people um, might know that there is a increase in people who get weighted blankets, which I cannot sleep without. I actually need weight on me when I sleep because it helps keep my nervous system calm because I'm a sensitive person. But there are other people, you put a weighted blanket on them and they feel like they're being like choked and drowned. And that would be my husband. He doesn't have a nervous system like mine. Um, and when you've had a very traumatized nervous system, um, weighted blankets can be very helpful. But if you've never been traumatized or you don't have this issue, you might not need it. Now, the weighted blanket doesn't help with light sensitivity, but it does help to calm you. So, if you don't have that, here's a couple of things that you can do, and people don't even know you're doing it. But you put your hand on your thing. Some people recommend the butterfly tap. You're not going to do this when you're driving, so I can't do that. But you can do this, and then you do the box breathing thing. Count in four, breathe out four, count in four, breathe out seven, whatever those numbers are. I don't know. But the point is you breathe. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out. And that helps to send signal to the amygdala in your brain, which is your fight or flight center in your brain, which is what it's like this. So the goal is to keep your amygdala, to keep the front of your brain calm, which, don't flip your lid, do this, okay? So that is my process in doing this. So I drove and then the sun changed as I was driving. And I was like, oh no, it's a lot more lighter. And I noticed my anxiety going up more. I was like, okay, you need to calm down. Calm down. There's a little me that likes to bully the other part of me that says, you need to calm down, just relax. There's this thing. And I was like, no. I was like, just relax. You got this. So I put my hand on my chest, and then I was able to catch my breath. Now, a lot of you may be like me when you deal with your anxiety, you can't catch your breath. You're literally holding your breath. You walk around holding your breath. Yes, you're breathing, but you are holding your breath. And that happens with people who have an alert nervous system. So in my car, what my goal is to be able to drive and calm my body down as I'm driving, knowing that this is all physical, completely physical. It messes with you emotionally, but it's all physical. So anyway, I did these techniques. So I used my glasses. Um, I put pressure on my chest. By the way, you can do that anywhere. You can do it here. You can rub your temples. Lots of people do that. And mine are a little bit sore right now because of the weather. You can do it here. You can do it under your nose. You can do it under your chin. You can actually rub the side of your hand. That will actually help send a signal to your brain here to help calm your brain down. So I did that. And then in my journal, I put the last time I drove. Now, last time I drove was 13 days ago. 13 days. That's 2 weeks, right? So last time I drove was 2 weeks ago. One of those weeks, I was laid up with a migraine almost the whole week. So that will tell you why I had some of this anxiety going on. So, and then I put down here what was my overall, feeling and stuff. And so, my overall feeling is, my goal was to get out and drive. I wanted to play pickleball, but I knew today that it wasn't going to be a good day for my nervous system because I could already feel the pain in the back of my neck from just doing that. And it's very sore right now. And so the other thing I plan on doing today is I'm going to put on a migraine patch. I use a couple of different ones. The Vichy patch works better, and I'll put a link in the description if you're interested in checking it out. All natural, and what it does is it relaxes you, and it has herbs and stuff that help with light sensitivity. It just helps calm your body down, but without putting you to sleep. Unless you're new to it, then it could put you to sleep. So you got to be very careful with that. So that is one of my processes when I am struggling with a issue that I never used to. Um, and I'm sharing this because I want you to know that when I coach people, I don't help people um, without understanding a lot of what people go through. Um, that's what makes me a good coach, is that I get it. I totally get it. But I also know that you can't stay stuck. You have to, at some point, push through it, but push through it in a caring way, in a compassionate way, in a way where you're comforting yourself and you're encouraging yourself instead of beating yourself up. I am not a perfectionist, thank God. I did really well in college, actually. But I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a person that believes in making progress. And so for me today, this is a huge W, man. It's a win, win, win. And my goal is to actually drive at least 3 days a week. Maybe I'll do more because I know the more I do it, despite how I physically feel, the more confidence I'll have and the anticipatory anxiety that I struggle with. And that's what it is. And that's what a lot of you struggle with. You actually struggle with the anticipation of whatever it is, right? That anticipatory anxiety I struggle with, that will go down. And where this is going to be very helpful for me is when I know I have to go to an appointment. A couple weeks, I have a doctor's appointment. And every year, 2 weeks in a row, I have to get up early. I have to go to my annual checkup. I don't have to, but I choose to. And that drive is a little bit farther than going to pickleball. Not that big of a deal, but still, it's a stressful event for me because I don't know what the weather's going to be like. And if I drove only on blue sky days here in Tennessee, I would drive maybe 1 or 2 days a month. So I can't do that. I have to move forward. And so that's what I'm choosing to do. And I'm going to make myself accountable. I'm going to share with you my journey. I'm going to tell you, how it goes when I do it because um, I know some of you deal with the same thing. Bottom line, I know I'm not alone in it. And there are a lot of light triggers out there for people. So let me know if this has helped you. And I hope that you have a good day. I hope you have a better day. Do something good for yourself. If you're like me, you know, accomplish your goal. Say you did it. You nailed it, and then you will overcome it, right? And overcoming something doesn't mean that it's easy all the time, right? You know, um, it doesn't mean it's easy. And that's one of the lies that we hear from people all the time. Oh, it's so easy to blah blah blah. Doesn't always mean things are easy. And when you get older, as you're getting older, you're gonna lose abilities that you had when you were younger. And it's just learning to deal with those things and be gracious to yourself. A lot of us are very gracious to other people. And if I had a friend dealing with this same thing, I would be like, oh, I feel for you. And oh, can I help in any way? Maybe find whatever, blah, blah, you know. But sometimes we criticize ourselves more than we should. And we should never use should anyway. But don't criticize yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. So if you need a coach and you want some help, reach out, let me know. I I actually have a free consult. We can talk. And if I don't think I can help you, then I'll let you know. I know lots of people. Maybe I can recommend somebody else that can help you. But I'm being vulnerable and sharing my issues here because I get I get it. So, um, and I just so you know, I've talked to a therapist about this issue in the past, and that's one of the things I was advised to do was to do it frequently and not go long periods because the longer you do it, the more your anxiety is. So, think about it. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I hope you have a better day, people.